Waves of destiny, the depths unveiled. Kweku's green eyes bore into mine, his demand unwavering. His words, he repeated, his voice low and taut. What else did he say to you? The question struck me like a wave. My hands flew to my mouth instinctively, but the memories surfaced before I could stop them. Dax's voice echoed in my mind, his cryptic promise chilling me anew. I plan to take you, Amma, but the time is not yet right. Kweku's gaze sharpened, and I knew instantly. He had already heard my heart. His jaw tightened, the glow of his Aetherveins flaring brighter, casting shifting ethereal light through the water around us. His eyes held a storm of unspoken questions, their depths swirling with pain and worry. Then it struck me. I could hear the plea resonating from his heart. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid, I admitted, my voice trembling like a fragile thread. Not of you knowing, but of what might happen if you found him again. I didn't want... My words faltered, a vivid memory of their violent clash beneath the waves, flashing in my mind like a harrowing echo. I didn't want that to happen again. For a brief moment, Kweku's expression softened, his anger receding to reveal something gentler, understanding. You tried to protect me, he murmured, almost as if the realization pained him. But Amma, Dax leaves me no choice. Before I could respond, another memory clawed its way to the surface, a moment I hadn't fully registered until now. I had woken to the ghostly sensation of Dax's hand brushing against my cheek. The recollection struck me like a blow, fear surging through me with an intensity that left me breathless. Kweku's eyes widened, the full weight of the realization hitting him all at once. A sudden, powerful pulse of energy erupted from him, surging outward like a living force. The water rippled violently with his fury, a shockwave scattering schools of fish in panicked bursts and sending tremors through the ocean floor. His emotions were palpable, the water around him charged with his raw, unrestrained anger. Yet, the pulse never touched me or Nira. Instead, it felt as though it moved through me, sparing us entirely, searching for its target. And then, as though his thoughts had become my own, I felt Kweku's intent. The pulse was his energy, thrown from his body like a weapon, seeking Dax in the vast expanse of the sea. Kweku, I'm sorry, I blurted, fear gripping me, but he shook his head, his expression fierce and unrelenting. No, Amma. I am the one who must apologize. The thought of him touching you... His voice broke, and he exhaled sharply, his composure momentarily slipping. It is something I cannot bear. He looked at me then, his green eyes blazing with resolve. I had hoped to spare my brother, despite all he's done. But this... Kweku's voice dipped, cold and unyielding. This will be the last time he lays a hand on who is dear to me. His next words carried a chilling finality. I will end him. My chest tightened. What? But he's your brother. The words escaped before I could stop them, my voice edged with disbelief. The conviction in his tone wasn't a threat, it was a promise. He truly meant it. The rift between them frightened me. I couldn't comprehend such hatred between family. Swallowing hard, I searched his face for any trace of the gentle Kweku I knew. But when it came to Dax, that gentleness dissolved, leaving behind something unrelenting, like stone hardened under centuries of pressure. Why? I asked, wanting to understand. What caused this rift? Kweku's green eyes glowed with restrained intensity. For a moment, he wrestled with himself before speaking, his voice quieter. I'll explain, he said, so you'll understand, but not here. The words lingered, heavy, yet, as I watched him, something shifted. Slowly, his expression softened, and he drew me closer, brushing my cheek with a tenderness that erased the fury I'd seen moments ago. Of all the things in existence, Amma, he murmured, his voice steady and certain, only you and Nira matter, no one and nothing else. Not the throne, not the ocean, not even the stars. I will live to protect you both for as long as the sun burns and the oceans endure. Take my hand, Kweku said gently, extending his palm toward me. I placed my hand in his. The warmth of his touch, steady and grounding, contrasted with the cool, ethereal pull of the ocean around us. In the quiet space of my thoughts, his voice came again, though his lips didn't move. Nyera, come to me. The words resonated not only in my mind, but in my chest, a soft echo that reminded me of how closely our hearts were now tethered. Beside us, Nyera darted forward, responding to Kweku's silent call with a fluid grace that took my breath away. She swam alongside us, a streak of luminous green, her tiny form exuding joy and trust as Kweku smiled at her. Kweku led us forward, the water embracing us like an ancient guardian. The seabed stretched endlessly below, illuminated by shafts of sunlight breaking through the ocean's surface. As we swam, went much deeper, I noticed the water grew warmer, denser, as though alive with purpose. Ahead, a structure loomed, an impossibly vast network of towering pillars, their surfaces gleaming faintly with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like the rhythm of a heartbeat. They rose endlessly toward the surface, their tops disappearing into the shimmering light above. There were no walls, no roof, just these ancient columns, standing sentinel over the open expanse of the sea. The water here felt different, alive, almost sentient. It swirled gently around me, its movements imbued with a sense of purpose and reverence, as though we had entered a sacred space. I couldn't help but stare in awe. The pillars seemed older than time itself, their surfaces etched with ancient runes that shimmered faintly in hues of green and silver. Schools of luminous fish darted through the open spaces between the pillars, their synchronized movements like a living tapestry woven through the vast expanse. The stillness of the place was profound, but it wasn't empty. It thrummed with energy, an ancient pulse that resonated in my chest. Kweku stopped in the center of the space and turned to me, his green eyes glowing softly. "This is the Salarin Atrium," he said, his voice reverent. "It is not a temple in the way you would think of one. It has no walls to separate it from the sea, no roof to divide it from the heavens. It is a place of convergence, a bridge between our world and the ancestors of the abyss, who are also called the tide wraiths. It is here that kings are revealed." The reverence in his voice mirrored the wonder I felt, but there was a weight to his words, a gravity that made the water feel heavier around us. "The night of Alra," Kweku began, his tone dipping lower, "is a time when the tide wraiths descend and move among us, here. They are what you might call spirits, Amma, but they are far more than that. They are the eternal keepers of the ocean's will. Beings who have transcended life yet remain deeply tied to our world. They do not merely linger, they shape, they guide, they judge. Their presence is vast, like the ocean itself. They come at pivotal moments," Kweku continued, his gaze drifting to the glowing columns around us. "Their power is immense, capable of influencing the tides of fate and stirring the essence within us. It was the tide wraiths who brought my Aetherveins to the surface of my skin during the night of Alra. That is how it is for every king of every generation. Their touch burns, but it also enlightens. It is through their guidance that we find our purpose and their blessing that marks us for destiny." He paused, his gaze returning to me, steady and intent. "The marks you see on me, Amma, are called Aetherveins. They are not mere markings, but conduits of my essence, my aqualith, made visible during the night of Alra. They embody my connection to the sea and my people, a living beacon of my birthright as future king and protector." I couldn't help but marvel at his explanation. That's amazing, I thought. How could I have reduced something so profound to mere tattoos? They were like a king's crown, etched into him, inseparable from his very being. Kweku's lips curved faintly, a subtle acknowledgement of my thoughts. Yes, Amma, they are much like a crown, he said softly, but only one may bear them. Only the chosen heir who was born with them and who has come of age. His voice deepened, a shadow of bitterness creeping in. That's why Dax loathes them, covets them. They're proof of what he failed to achieve at birth. As the first son, the Aetherveins should have been his. By right, the eldest offspring bears the stronger veins, tied directly to the essence of our mother, the queen. But when the night of Alra came, Kweku's words faltered, a shadow crossing his face. The tide wraiths rejected him. They said his heart was unfit, his essence unworthy. The water around us seemed to dim, reflecting the weight of his memory. And so, the Aetherveins appeared on me. His voice was quieter now, heavy with the pain of recollection. Dax has never forgiven me for that. In his eyes, I took something that should have been his. But it wasn't my choice. It was destiny's decree. I felt the weight of his words, the unspoken scars they carried. So you see, Amma, my Aetherveins are more than markings, Kweku continued, his green eyes glowing with quiet resolve. They're a reflection of the power within, a living proof of my duty. They tie me to the sea, to my merfolk, to the balance I am meant to uphold. Through them, I can command the sea, communicate with its creatures, and harness its power. I stared at him, processing the magnitude of what he was saying. This wasn't just about kingship or rivalry. It was about destiny, etched into his very being, and the fracture it had left between him and Dax. How could he blame you? I found myself whispering. You didn't choose this. Kweku's lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. Blame needs no reason when pride is wounded, Amma. To Dax, it doesn't matter. In his mind, I stole what was his, and he will never stop trying to take it back. The heaviness in Kweku's voice lingered, settling between us. I searched his expression, but his face had taken on a distant, haunted quality, his thoughts clearly far away, somewhere painful. So that's why you two fight? I asked carefully, the words tasting fragile in the water. Because he wants your power? To be king? Kweku shook his head, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. If it were only about the throne, Amma, I could still love my brother. But what he's done... His jaw tightened, and his words caught in his throat, as if even speaking them might give them more power. He's guilty of far worse. A sense of dread curled through me, dark and unshakable. Kweku? I whispered, unsure if I should stop him. The sadness and rage radiating from him were almost too much to bear, but he pressed on, his voice trembling as though the confession itself was a wound being reopened. Dala, my mate, was... He paused, his strength faltering as if the memory threatened to break him. She was light itself, a presence so radiant, so full of kindness, she lifted everyone around her just by being near. Her laughter could calm even the fiercest tides. I felt the raw ache in his words, each one a thread unraveling his pain. His voice softened, a storm quieted by the weight of memory. You remind me of her, Amma, and yet, you are the only one who surpasses her. You are more beautiful in every way that matters. His words left me breathless, their meaning settling deep into my chest. But he didn't linger on them. His gaze hardened as he continued. When Dax realized the tide wraiths had denied him the throne, he grew desperate. He turned to Dala, not as my brother, but as a merman, consumed by his own failure. A sickening sense of foreboding swept over me, my arms wrapping around myself instinctively. She refused, Kweku said, his voice a blade slicing through the stillness. But Dax didn't stop. He waited until she was vulnerable, during childbirth. A mermaid's defenses are lowest then, and mermen are forbidden to be near them. My heart pounded, each beat an echo of dread. No, I breathed, as though my protest could undo what had already been done. But Dax... Kweku's voice broke, his fists clenching as the water around us seemed to stir in response. He entered her chamber, overpowered the mermaids guarding her. He had secured an artifact, an abomination designed to steal one's essence, one's aqualith. She fought him, but she was too weak. The artifact didn't work as he'd planned, but it drained her strength. With what little she had left, she gave birth to our daughter, and then she was gone before she could hold her child. The finality of his words crushed me. My vision blurred as tears welled in my eyes, the weight of his loss pressing down on my chest. Kweku. My voice faltered, useless against the enormity of his pain. My daughter was left without a mother, without a shield. His gaze drifted to Nira, swimming nearby with effortless grace, her laughter soft and sweet. For a fleeting moment, his expression softened, but the storm within him lingered. When I saw Dax near you, Kweku continued, his voice taut with fury, I would have ended him there, but the look on your face stopped me. I don't want you to witness such a terrible thing. You're too pure, Amma. His gaze returned to mine, raw and unflinching. But understand this, if he ever lays a hand on you or our daughter again, nothing will stop me. The water seemed to still around us, the weight of his promise reverberating through the depths. I swallowed hard, my thoughts spinning. The weight of his story crushed me, every detail a jagged edge cutting deeper into my heart. He floated closer, his hand brushing against my cheek, his touch grounding and tender. When I went back for him that day, my mother stopped me. She reasoned with me, but Dax had already disappeared. I blinked through my tears. Disappeared? Kweku nodded, his expression hardening again. He has the ability to vanish at will. It's a gift the Tide Wraiths granted him despite rejecting him as king, a misguided attempt to temper his bitterness. It's why he continues to evade me, why I couldn't find him, despite searching every corner of the sea. He paused, his gaze fierce. He is my brother, Amma. But he's a plague, a danger to everything I hold dear. The ocean seemed to quiet as his words lingered. Even Nyera's playful movements slowed, her presence a quiet comfort in the heavy atmosphere. I reached for Kweku's hand, squeezing it lightly. His gaze softened as it met mine, and in that moment I saw the weight he carried, not just as a king, but as a man who had lost too much. I'm sorry, I whispered. It was all I could offer, but it felt like everything. His grip tightened around mine. There's nothing to forgive, but I swear, Amma, I will protect you, no matter what. You saved me from the darkness that imprisoned me. Like with Nyera, you were the first to make me smile again. All this time, I had dismissed his words, meeting his surreal revelations with skepticism, too anchored in my own reality to see the depths of the pain he carried. And all this time, he had borne it with patience, with unwavering kindness. But now, confronted with the full truth, it struck with an unbearable force. Too much, too raw, too devastatingly real. This wasn't just a story or a confession. It was a wound, still bleeding. A pain too vivid to ignore. Kweku, I trembled, tears choking me. How do you carry all of this? How do you bear it? His hand found mine, grounding me once more. Because of you, Amma. You are the reason I endure. The silence between us grew heavier, weighed down by all that Kweku had revealed. I searched his face, trying to reconcile the merman I'd come to know with the horrifying truths he had just shared. Yet, even as my mind reeled, I couldn't deny the steady strength in his presence, a beacon against the storm of uncertainty swirling inside me. Amma, he said softly, breaking the stillness. I know I've told you much, and I fear I've burdened you. Are you all right? Kweku studied me closely, his green eyes searching mine, carrying a depth I wasn't ready to dive into. I nodded instinctively, the motion automatic, even though my thoughts churned like a storm. I'm fine, I managed, though the word felt hollow. But I wasn't fine. Not even close. My mind raced with everything I had just learned about Dala, about Dax, and now about myself. The knowledge sat heavy in my heart, making every breath feel like a climb. "I'm sorry you had to see me fighting with Dax," he said. His tone was measured, but the tension in his jaw betrayed him. "But he should know better than to be anywhere near you." "It's all right," I said softly, my voice trembling with the effort to sound composed. For the first time, I fully understood. I couldn't fault him for the fury he unleashed. "I get it now." His fury had been born of love, of loss. I forced myself to ask the question, clawing at my thoughts, even though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. "Why did Dax say those things to me the other night? What does he want with me?" Kweku's expression darkened, the warmth in his eyes cooling into something far colder. "Because he's Dax," he said, his tone low and edged with contempt. "Deception comes as naturally to him as breathing. He always has a plan, Amma, and it's always devious." His gaze flicked briefly to Nira, who swam nearby, blissfully unaware of the tension swirling around us. "If I had to guess—" Kweku hesitated, his jaw tightening before continuing. "He may be after your aqualith." My heart stumbled, a sharp pang cutting through me. "My aqualith?" Kweku's features softened slightly, though the weight of his words remained. "I don't know if he's certain you have it, but if he is—" He moved closer, his presence steadying me even as fear coiled tighter in my chest. "You're safe as long as you stay near me when we're in the water. But on land, Amma, he cannot reach you, and I cannot protect you there. Stay away from the sea when I'm not with you." I nodded, his words settling over me like a shield, but the fear refused to fully dissipate. My thoughts circled back to Dax, to what he had done to Dala. The enormity of it pressed against my ribs, suffocating. "Why is he like this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "How could someone who looks like that—" I shuddered, the memory of his inhuman beauty colliding with the knowledge of his monstrous deeds. "Do something so terrible?" My voice faltered, breaking against the edges of my growing dread. "He had me in his grasp. He could have—" I couldn't finish. The idea that Dax had come so close, had held such power over me, made my skin crawl. Kweku's expression hardened, his features sharpening with a steely resolve. "Dax wants everything I have, the throne, the power. But I am not vulnerable to him." After Dala's end, he turned his gaze to Nira, knowing she would be the easiest target. Without royal essence of his own, he covets her aqualith, her queen energy, which could make him king. Without a mother to shield her, he could have taken it, even without that cursed artifact. Her essence would have been defenseless. His gaze softened, a rare warmth breaking through the frustration etched in his features. "But thanks to you, Amma, she is safe. Your bond contains her aqualith and guards her queen energy." The words had barely settled when a realization struck me like a lightning bolt, sharp and jarring. My throat tightened as I struggled to voice it. "Wait, are you saying I'm standing in Dax's way?" Kweku's green eyes softened further, his concern for me unmistakable. "Amma," he said gently, "you are the shield that protects Nira. Without you, her aqualith would be unguarded." My chest tightened, panic clawing at my composure. "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" Kweku hesitated, reaching for my hand. His touch was steady, grounding, but his eyes carried the weight of regret. "I didn't want to overwhelm you." "Overwhelm me?" The words tumbled out in a rush, my voice rising with frustration. "You told me she needed to bond with a mother, not that I'd be standing in the path of the greatest threat in your sea." The enormity of it churned inside me, wild and uncontrollable. If I'd known about Dax, maybe I would have thought twice about all this. "I understand," Kweku said, his voice calm but tinged with remorse. But now, you need to know everything. I pulled my hand back, my pulse hammering as fear and frustration collided. Don't you think it's a little late for that? It's not, he replied, his tone resolute, yet understanding. This knowledge will prepare you. Prepare me? My voice cracked, panic breaking through the surface. Prepare me? For what? Kweku? I'm afraid of him. His gaze didn't falter, holding mine with an unshakable steadiness. He cannot hurt you if you stay out of the water when I'm not with you. I stared at him, my mind racing with the magnitude of what he was asking of me. How had I ended up here, in this impossible situation? I can't handle this, I thought. Kweku moved closer, his eyes searching mine. You can handle it, Amma, he said quietly. I looked up sharply, realizing he had read my thoughts again. You must, because there's more you have to do. My stomach twisted. More?